Okay, well, look. First of all, upper division. How much have you stepped it up on the training ground this summer?
Yeah, we've tried to do something very similar to what we done last season, but of course we needed to try and increase the intensity that we work at and the volume of everything that we do. So it looks similar to last season, but we've tried to increase everything across the board really.
What is going to be better in League Two in terms of the opposition you come up against? Do you think?
Yeah, I imagine there's going to be more quality, more pace, more impressive athletes, and so we need to be able to play against those players, and we need to be able to stop them and also to be able to cause those players problems.
Last season, particularly here, a lot of teams sat off and had everybody behind the ball. Will you be able to earn that? Do you think in League Two, or is it just going to be completely different? Are teams going to not give you that level of respect?
I think first of all, for clarity, I think we had two home games where the opposition genuinely had a game plan to sit really deep. Many times when you watch the opposition deep was not their plan at all, but they were forced into that position. So I think it's probably misleading the amount of teams that ended in a deep block that didn't plan to be in a deep block. Whether or not we can impose ourselves again in League Two is yet to be seen. But certainly we'll have the same approach and the same mentality that we had last season. But we need to improve all round to be able to have the same outcome.
Many people around football and bookmakers and people like that are saying you're among the favourites to go up. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how they base that on a team that have never played in that together in that division. So I don't know about that. I think the proof will be in the pudding when we play 10 games. We'll know roughly if we're going to be in the shake-up or not. So yeah, I don't pay too much attention to that at the moment.
Can I ask you about the recruitment? Last summer, of course, a lot of the signings you made, and very good signings they were as well, but came from National League North, a division below. This time, a number of signings from League One. How significant do you think that is, and what sort of difference has that made around the place?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a huge amount to do with the recruitment, as I'm sure you're aware. But I think last season the recruitment was outstanding because of the return of goals and the level of performances from the players that were brought in from the National North and the National South. And it looks to me like, on paper, certainly the signings that we've made have been very strong, and so I hope that those players are able to help us perform at League Two level, and I've got every confidence that they will.
I suppose there's one that's particularly got fans excited, David McGoldrick. I think you knew what I was going to ask about.
Yeah.
I just wonder, somebody who's played at the highest level and has already shown his quality and frankly some of the goals that he's scored as well. What's it been like having him around, and what's his impact on the team already?
Yeah, huge. It's been a joy really because of his commitment, how hard he works and focus. He's so present every day. There's no problem with his application or his attitudes. Far from it, it's the opposite. It's been a pleasure, and I think that the rest of the group have to take notice of that. It's impossible not to. I mean, last time I saw David play before he joined us was when I was assistant manager at Swansea in the Championship, and he was outstanding for the Blades. He was brilliant. So, this is a guy that is still capable of playing in the Championship, for sure. You look at what he done last season at Derby, and then for that guy to be applying himself in the way that he is day in day out, it really, for the rest of the squad, it leaves nowhere to hide.
Just finally, I want to ask you about the rule changes for this season. Looks like there's going to be another 10-15 minutes added on at the end of games. You saw it at a World Cup, of course, and now it looks like it's going to be implemented here. What difference is that going to make, do you think, for players over a course of a season?
Well, I think, for us, if you look at the way we played last season, I'm sure we had the most ball in play time in the league, and we suffered on a couple of occasions teams managing the game very, very well. And I have, to be clear, I've got no problem with that at all. Many teams decided to slow the game down and to bring the physios on for treatment plenty of times, and to take the time to get the ball back in and so on. All the clever tactics that you would use to delay a game, but of course the football authorities don't want that as much, and that probably suits us more than it suits other teams. So I think I'd like to think that it would work in our favour rather than against us.
There's a lot of other rules, isn't there, like with you and an assistant on the touchline, only one of you can be at the front. There's a lot of things that probably you don't really want to be having to think about in the middle of a game, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that we're quite fortunate because we don't tend to have too many up too often. Ryan is normally with the rest of the coaching staff, and occasionally will come to stand by my side, but we'll have to change that to some extent. But certainly there'll be other clubs where they have a different culture and there's a lot of people standing up a lot of the time, so it might affect them more. But I don't think we'll have a huge problem with it. I worry for the fourth officials having to enforce that rule against certain technical areas. I think will be very tough for them, but we'll see how that pans out in reality.
Just finally on the rules, for goalkeepers as well, potential penalty shootouts, and there's a lot of things to stop goalkeepers delaying things. Obviously, you've got the League Cup, maybe there'll be penalty shootouts in that. You're going to have a word with goalkeepers to make sure that they sort of abide by those rules, because it seems like they're going to be very strict on them, and the last thing you need is keepers getting sent off mid-shootouts. Yeah.
I'm pleased they didn't do that last season, because I think Archie May probably would have been sent off, but no, okay, if that's the rule across the board, and we have to be aware of that. So yeah, for sure, when we prepare for a game that has the potential to go to penalties, we'll be making the goalkeepers aware of that.
Good stuff, Luke. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
I'm just wondering how much of a step up League Two is compared to the National League. Is it obvious enough that county supporters would also see the difference?
The truth is, I don't know. I worked in the Championship in League One, in National League. I've never been involved in League Two, so I don't know. I mean, we know one thing for sure is going to be more difficult, but how much more difficult and how different the game will look, I just don't know. And so we need to actually get going and discover things for ourselves.
As mentioned there, people do have you as one of the favourites to be challenging for promotion, but it's your first job to make sure that Notts County stay in League Two, and what will it take for that to happen?
Yeah, I mean, the first job I have is to assess where we are and to find out the strength that we have and the strength of the league. And like I say, I just can't answer those questions until I have evidence in front of me. So yeah, I mean, the first job is to resolve the problems. If there are problems, I need to try to help the team as much as I possibly can, and if we're strong, my job is to try to maintain those levels. But yeah, at the moment it's just too difficult for me to predict.
Something I found quite interesting, maybe if I've got it wrong somebody can correct me, but Luton and Notts County were original members of the Premier League, but they got relegated before the Premier League came into being. Now obviously Luton are back there, which means Notts County are the only original member of the Premier League to not play there. Can you take any inspiration from their journey, sort of in a similar way, to your own, really, ahead of the new season? I know we're only at the first match in League Two, but is there anything you can take from what's happened to them over the years, and can you be inspired by that?
Yeah, I mean, what they've done is incredible. I think what Luton have done ranks with Leicester winning the Premier League. they're not even a big club in terms of the spending power. They're not even up there in the Championship. They're just incredibly well managed and well run football club, and I see those similarities here with Knox, that the club is being run very sensibly in a very logical way with constant planning for the future, and that's something that Luton have done incredibly well, and that's why they've managed to overcome all the odds.
Just focusing on the weekend, how are you going to feel come kick-off? What's going to be going through your mind, emotions, that kind of thing? Will it feel different to the start or last season?
No, I think that I'm very anxious now, and I will be up until the whistle goes. But then during the game is a different feeling, because you don't have the time to consider what's going on around. Is only to concentrate on the game, and that was it was similar last season. Very anxious in the weeks leading up to the first game, and then of course we didn't have a brilliant start. We won our first game, but we drew 3 afterwards, and we didn't play particularly well. And so we're going again. We're going into the unknown now, and there's a lot of anxiety, because I'm preparing myself for the challenge in front.
It does feel like a challenge, because you look at some of the teams that have slipped through the net of League Two in recent years since yourselves did it. Obviously, you weren't here then, but there are big teams that have left League Two, and that probably gives you some indication of just how tough this season could be.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the whole structure. It's teams coming down from the Premier League with huge resources now, and then that stops clubs from getting promoted from the Championship that already have huge resources as well. And of course, this just comes down the levels. So I think the levels are improving. I think it's fair to say that what ourselves and Wrexham done last season is really made people take notice of the quality of the National League now. 2 teams hitting over 100 points. So yeah, the standard is increasing across the board, and League Two is getting stronger as well as all the other divisions. Yeah.
Just a final one. I know you mentioned that your first job is to see where this squad is, but do you have an expectation? Do you have a position, a place in the table in mind, or rather, what you think this group of players are capable of this season?
No, I think we have we have targets within the group, but when I arrived here, the club had finished 5th in the National League, and so I had good reason to believe they would be very competitive again and be around the playoffs again, and that proved to be the case. But we don't know how this team can perform in this level. So we have some goals that we have set for ourselves as a group, but no, I think it would be crazy for me to try to guess how strong the division is and how strong the other teams are until we've seen them play.
Great. Thanks, Luke. Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thanks very much.
Luke, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Good
you too.
name. I'm also a Luke. Can I ask about the amazing feeling that obviously was the end of last season? And we've heard from your captain about how incredible that was among the squad too. How able are you to draw on that and use that momentum going into this season, or is it just sort of square one situation?
Well, I think that having a good feeling is a real thing. I think that if we start the season well, then momentum will become a part of that. If we don't, momentum will very quickly vanish. So we're preparing ourselves like that we have a blank slate and we have to prove ourselves again. But yeah, like I say, I think if we start well, everyone will point to the fact that there was a feel-good factor going into the season, and that would be something that would be considered to have helped us.
Does that put more pressure on the opening games, or is there enough pressure on those as is?
No, I don't think the fact that we have a good feeling puts more pressure. But yeah, there's a level of pressure on the opening game for every club, and we're no different.
We heard from your captain also talking about the support and the amazing drive that the fans gave you last season. You'll obviously need that again this year. I'm assuming you're expecting to see that though.
Yeah, I'm sure that there'll be a good following, and it's our job to try to keep the fans engaged by providing them with winning football, and that there's no other way around that. We have to give them something to be excited about, and we have to give them a good product on the pitch, and we're all aware of that. The squad and the staff, we're all very, very aware that we're very fortunate that we have an incredible fan base, and that the fan base need to be satisfied, and that's a huge job for us.
Not to snitch, but I know we were just talking about goals for this season. Your captain was saying that you should really be aiming for promotion. That's what he feels this squad's capable of. I know that you're a little bit more cagey about it, but do you have anything to add to what he said?
No, I mean, the captain will be presenting to the group. He'll be presenting to the group on Friday night, and that's something that he done last season, and he was very clear in his targets last season for the squad. And so, if Cammy is happy to share that with you, then fantastic. I don't think it was my place to share that information if he hadn't, but yeah, that's how the playing staff feel, and myself and the support staff, we have to do everything that we possibly can to help them try and achieve that, and push them in the best way that we can.
And how important is it that you have those experienced individuals in the team, as maybe the team starts to potentially find its feet at this new level, adapts to maybe a slightly new way of playing?
Yeah, I think if you're very young, I worked with a group in a long time ago in League One that was very, very young. Was probably the youngest average age of the EFL, and they went all the way to the playoff final and at Wembley. But if you're young, you need to be very, very good, I think. But you cannot replace the experience. So I think most of the time a good team needs a mixture, and they certainly need experience to help the younger players. And like I say, if you're young across the board, you need to have very, very good players.
Thanks for your time, Luke. All the best.
Thank you.
Just a few from me, Luke. Obviously, we've spoken about that word pressure a lot, and obviously there is pressure. But I think the way that the team performed last year brought a lot of eyes to the National League, as well as Wrexham bringing that. Do you think that perhaps more people will be focusing on county this year, and does that add pressure?
Yeah, I think that we'll be marked. A marked team, and I'm sure established League Two teams will want to show us and put us in our place, and it's our job to stand up to that, and it's no good for us to sulk and to want to be in the shadows. We have a brilliant fan base. We have a fantastic stadium to play football in that doesn't look like a National League stadium, and yes, we have some attention on us because we made an incredible season, and with Wrexham thrown into the mix, of course, we can't hide from that. So we have to stand up to it, and we have to be ready for teams to want to come and put us in our place.
And then in terms of how pre-season's gone, the games that you lose, are they as important as the ones you win, or more important? What do you take from both sides of that? Yeah,
the pre-season, everything is important. We look at how players perform together, combinations, how the team perform as a whole against different oppositions, and how they cope when we make changes. So there's a lot for us to try to learn about players that we already have worked with, if we feel like they've improved and taken a step forward, and players that have just joined us, for us to try and learn a few things about them as quickly as we can using pre-season. But the real heavy stuff is about to begin, and we learn a lot more about the players when the league games start.